529 versus a UTMA. Which plan should you choose? When saving for your child's future, there are many options out there, and many people just aren't sure which one to determine is the right one for them, especially when it comes to a 529 and a UTMA. So knowing the difference between these two accounts can help you decide which one fits better into your specific goals. So today, I'd like to try and help you out. Before we get into the differences between these two accounts, let's discuss the basics of each account. First, the 529. The 529 plan is an education savings account. It is used to save for education. So you take after-tax dollars that you've already paid taxes on, you put them into the account, and then you invest them. Those investments and the growth grows tax-free, and then when it's used for an a qualified education expense, it comes out tax-free. There are many other benefits to a 529, and if you're interested, please check out our video on the benefits of a 529. Conversely, a UTMA account, or a Uniform Transfer of Minors Act account, is where you would put assets into the account, and that can be both funds, it can be cash, it can be real estate, numerous other things can go into this trust account, and it's for the minor, and either the contributor or a designated custodian takes care of that account for the minor until they reach age of majority, which is somewhere between 18 and 21, depending upon the state where the account was set up. At that time, when the child reaches age of majority, the assets in that account is turned over to them, and then they determine how it's used. It's not designed to be a college savings plan. They can most certainly use it for that if they desire, but it's not designed to be a college savings account. All right, now that we've talked about the basics of what the two accounts are, let's go through and look at some of the specific ways that they're different. So the number one way is who owns the account. Well, as I just mentioned, a UTMA account is owned by the minor, and until the minor reaches the age of majority, someone else helps to take care of that account for them, and they have to act as a fiduciary, and they have to do what's in the best interest of the minor when using the funds in those accounts. But once they reach age of majority, they own the account, they own all the assets in it, they can do whatever they want to with it. On the other hand, a 529 plan, that is owned by the owner of the plan, not the beneficiary. So the owner of the plan actually determines how and who those funds are used for, not the beneficiary that's currently named. So the beneficiary of the plan doesn't get to choose how it's invested or how it's spent. Ownership is different between the two. The second difference, financial aid and how it's handled in the EFC for the FAFSA application. A UTMA, again, is the student's asset. So that means on the FAFSA, when the federal formula is used to calculate the expected family contribution, a UTMA is a student's asset. It is weighted far heavier than a parent's asset. On the other side, a 529, again, is owned by the parent and not the student. So therefore, it is used at the weighted range for a parent's asset and not a student. So between the two on this one, the 529 is going to be far more favorable than a UTMA when it comes to financial aid for college. The next difference is qualified expenses. In a UTMA account, there are no qualified or non-qualified expenses. These assets are to be able to use for whatever the custodian sees fit, as long as it's in the best interest of the child. And then once the minor reaches the age of majority, those are their assets. They can use it for whatever they want. It doesn't matter if it's qualified or non-qualified, because that criteria doesn't exist when using funds from a UTMA. For a 529, however, there are qualified and non-qualified expenses. If the funds in a 529 are used for non-qualified expenses, they will be taxed. And those qualified expenses are meant to be for education purposes. So those can be used for K through 12 tuition at a private school, up to $10,000 a year. They can be used for other educational expenses for college or secondary education. So that'd be for tuition, books, fees, and there's many others, such as room and board, or even computers or other electronic equipment that a student might need to be a student, as well as software programs. So there's a lot of uses that can be used for a qualified educational expense, but there does have to be a determination between qualified and non-qualified with a 529. This might be one area where the UTMA might seem like a better deal since they aren't qualified or non-qualified expenses. As we're talking about that, let's talk about the taxes though. In a UTMA, the taxes are based on the minor. So we start with the first $1,050 is free from taxes. They're exempt. No taxes on the first earnings of $1,050. The next $1,050 is taxed at the minor's tax rate, and that's typically 0%. There might be some exceptions, but typically that's 0. So it's not until after the UTMA account has reached earnings beyond $2,100 that those start becoming taxed. And here's the catch. Because this is a trust account, those earnings are going to be taxed at the trust rate, which is usually around 37%. So it's a much higher tax rate. Once the minor reaches the age of majority, the taxes will be at their current tax bracket rate. On a 529 plan, again, as long as they're used for qualified educational expenses, there are no taxes. They are free from federal taxes, and you even get a state tax deduction in some states when you put it in. So the taxes are very different, and if these are going to be used for education, 529 is going to be a favorable choice here. Number 5, gift taxes. Now this one's tricky because there isn't much of a difference between the gift tax amounts in either account. So anyone can contribute to these accounts or gift an amount to the beneficiary or to the minor through the gift tax. Now, there's a federal gift tax exclusion rate, which right now in 2022 is $16,000. And if you have a spouse, each of you can do $16,000 each year before having to file a federal gift tax return. So someone could contribute $16,000 to a UTMA for a minor, or they can contribute $16,000 to a 529, or they could do partial in between. It's just important to remember that it is a gift to the person, not to the account. So you couldn't do $16,000 to both accounts, both a UTMA and a 529. You can only do $16,000 per one. And that's for an overall gift. So let's say you wanted to do more, you can, but you have to fill out the federal gift tax return with your return. And then it bases it on a whole entire lifetime. And the current federal tax gift exclusion for a lifetime is $11.7 million. So if you're not planning on giving away $11.7 million, the gift tax exclusion isn't really a big factor when it comes in between the two accounts. One thing to keep in mind though, is because the gift goes into the UTMA, it is irrevocable. It cannot come back out. Once it is gifted, and you can't take it back. With a 529, once it goes in there, the owner of the account, which is not the beneficiary, can control where that money goes. So in gifting, it's very important to know the difference between the two and which one is optimal for you. Number 6, investment options and contribution limits. So with a UTMA, there are variety of investment options, and there are no contribution limits other than the annual gift tax exclusion or the lifetime gift tax exclusion rate. Those are the only things. Otherwise, you can put as much in there as you want. There's no limits to that. Just keep in mind that even though you can put in stocks and cash and even artwork or real estate and all sorts of assets in there, again, once it's gifted to the trust, it must stay in the trust, and it can only be used in the best interest of the minor. So things to keep in mind when you're gifting things to a UTMA. To a 529, there's no limit other than these federal gift tax exclusions, so you can put as much in there. But do keep in mind that each state does set a limit of the amount that the account can have. Because it's designed as a college savings account, they don't want an unreasonable amount of money to get in there because it should be saved for college and be able to be used. Most states have somewhere a limit per account, somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000. So as far as the investment options go within a 529 plan, you are limited to only the investment options that are allowed within that plan. So it is a limitation of the 529 plan, but it's also good to know because remember, the 529 plan is owned by the owner, and therefore you can choose where some of those assets go and move them around. It's not an irrevocable gift per se. Should you choose a 529 plan or a UTMA? As with many financial questions, the answer is it depends. If you're looking at trying to save for education costs, higher education costs, college costs, the 529 will typically be the best answer for you. However, if you're not sure what you want to use that money for or what the child might want to use the money for in the future, it might be better to use the UTMA because there's no penalties. You don't get the tax advantages, but you also don't have any penalties. So it really depends on your personal situation on which way to go. A financial planner can help you make this decision and also can help you plan for the future. Because remember, there are some implications when planning for higher education when it comes to that expected family contribution. Additionally, you might want to open up both accounts, and that is perfectly fine. You can have both accounts. You can use the UTMA for maybe some of those assets that you can't put into a 529, and then you can use the 529 to save for higher education. So you most certainly can use both. They're taxed different ways, they're handled different ways, so it's important to be sure to plan ahead. So if you have any questions about that or you'd like to talk to us about that, please feel free to sign up below. We offer a free 30-minute discovery call where we can talk about some of the options that might be available to you, even maybe beyond a 529 and a UTMA when it comes for saving for the future for a child. So please contact us, and I would love to know in the comments below which one you want to choose. Oh, and this is a series, so don't forget to hit subscribe because I'd hate for you to miss the next episode. I'll see you then.